Good evening. It is Tuesday, January 29, 2019. It's been a good day.
It's been a very good day for both of us.
This is our fourth take.
Yeah, I know. First the phone freaked out, or no, wait, no, that
First we messed up. Second we messed up. Third, I messed up by not putting the SD card back in the phone. And now this is the fourth run.
Trying it again, because we're going to get it done.
Yeah!
Yeah! Get her done!
Get her done!
Get her done! We're going to do a topic recommended to us by our friend Eric over at Driven Industries. I will put a link below to his social media sites, and check him out. He's pretty smart. He's been through a lot of stuff on his own too. And the recommendation is tips and tricks for you to have to help you take care of your loved one if you have a loved one who has depression. And by loved one, we mean boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, husband, wife, brother, sister, mom, dad, best friend, not your best friend, but still a good friend. Anybody that you actually really care about legitimately.
Yep.
Alright, so when I say loved one in the future, that's what we mean. The first thing is, if you suspect that they're depressed, don't take it personally. And because depression is a disease, it is a chemical imbalance in their brain. It is not something you've done wrong. It's not something you've said wrong. Don't blame yourself. And while you're trying to help them, if you feel a little helpless or frustrated, there's a lot of different kinds of depression out there. There's a lot of different coping mechanisms, medications, therapy techniques. There's just so many combos out there that it can take a long time to find the right one.
Yep.
You got...
The one thing to remember when you're trying to help someone is don't let them and their depression weigh down on you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Take care of yourself, too.
Yes.
If you spend all of your energy taking care of a loved one, you will become tired and frustrated and burnt out and all that, and you're not going to be able to help your loved one if you are in that kind of a situation yourself.
You won't even be able to help yourself.
No, you could help yourself, but if your goal is to help that loved one, you want to make sure that you can do it first before you jump into that.
That's true.
And when it comes time to talk with them, sit down with them and plan a scheduled time. Unless there is like an emergency going on and they suddenly go into a meltdown for whatever reason. But if it's just something you want to talk to them about, if you wanted to ask them questions like, hey, I've noticed you've been kind of fill in the blank lately. Are you okay? What can I do to help you feel better? All that stuff. Know the symptoms, do your research before you do this sit-down talk. So that way you're prepared. You don't have to get nervous about it or anything like that. Don't get confrontational though. If they don't want to talk about it, just but let them know that the discussion is open. That the offer is on the table, that if they wanted to talk to somebody about whatever was going on, they can come to you. Make that very, very clear. That they can come to you and you will help. Or try to anyway.
I don't want to throw you under the bus.
Uh-oh.
But I will say, you do that a lot.
I do what?
Where you're like, just anti anyone.
Oh, where I don't want to talk about my problems? Yeah.
You're very big into that.
Some depressed people are.
Oh, I know. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
That's why I'm saying don't get confrontational. Because
exactly.
If anything, if you get confrontational,
it might make them angry.
It might make the situation worse. And then if they do want to talk about it, they'll think, oh, that person was confrontational or that person was being whatever. I don't want to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
It eliminates you as a source of help. You want to be open and you want to be welcoming and you want to be receiving, and just let them know that you are there and you would be happy to talk with them. If your loved one is somebody like you're legally related to somehow, whether it's marriage, fiance, or a family member, one thing you can do is, if you do notice that they're starting to show symptoms, or if you want to get your own advice on, how can I approach this problem, or how can I talk about that problem, don't be afraid to call their therapist.
Yep.
Now, their therapist cannot tell you anything they've said in their sessions, because there is a huge privacy law about that. HIPAA, yes. HIPAA. Look it up. Read it. It's huge. It's long. It's complicated. But basically it boils down to mum's the word.
Yep.
You can't ask the therapist, what did she say about this, or did she talk about that? You can't do that. I mean, you can do that, but they won't answer you. They'll just be like, I'm sorry, I can't tell you that.
Or they shouldn't answer you.
No, they shouldn't. And if they do, they're breaking the law. So.
Yeah, a bad law.
Yeah, and, other ways, other things you can talk about, like if you notice that they are in a depressive mood, or they've told you, there are some questions you can ask. I mean, you can ask, when did this begin? Because it's a good idea to know how long that they've been like that, so you can learn to recognize their symptoms and their timelines. And because usually once one person has a depressive episode, their symptoms become kind of standard.
Routine.
Yeah. Their symptoms may end up being the same at the beginning of each meltdown or episode, or whatever you want to call it. I know, like, with me, when mine first started happening, my first sign that I'm getting depressed is I get tired.
Oh, yeah.
I stay in bed. I just refuse to get up. I refuse to have the gumption to do housework or hygiene or anything. Yep. When I start getting depressed, I become bedridden.
Yep. And
sore. Because depression can physically manifest itself in your body. It can make you sore. It can give you a headache. And develop like a plan. Develop a routine to go with that routine. When you know they're having problems and they've come to you and they said, I'm having this kind of problem, develop a routine of how you're going to take care of it in that specific moment. Take it moment by moment. Like, for example, with David, whenever he starts getting overwhelmed or overstimulated or depressed or whatever, we generally have the same thing that we do each time because it works. We found what works, and that's what we do. For David, we give him his as-needed medication, such as his Ativan. If he's overwhelmed or stressed, the Ativan helps calm him down.
Yep.
Risperdal or risperidone, that helps if he's having any psychotic issues like hallucinations, voices, tactile hallucinations, anything like that. We usually give some pain reliever, because one thing I have, and he's noticed too, both of us, I'm not sure how common it is, but when one of us has an episode or a meltdown, as soon as it's over, we almost always have a headache. A horrible headache. If I have a crying spell, when I'm done crying, my head is just throbbing.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm depressed and I'm in bed, my head. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm asking you questions like I can hear you. Another one, did something trigger this? Did something happen? I ask you that a lot.
Yeah.
And
I ask you that a lot.
Yeah, because it can be a circumstantial depression. There might have been a trigger, and if they can, and the more they can identify their triggers, the better they can learn to cope with certain triggers that may repeat themselves. The better they can manage their symptoms. Just be sure that they know that they're not alone. If you really need to, you can just be like, okay, I may not understand what you're going through, but I do care, and I do want to talk to you about it. And that just about wraps that up. Now, there's some good things not to say. There are things not to say. What are some of the things that not to say?
I just had a brain fart.
Snap out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell them to snap out of it because it's not that easy.
No, it's not.
If it was that easy, they would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Don't tell them it's all in their head. Just cheer up. Look on the bright side. The grass is always greener. The blah, 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 blah,
Just
blah.
be happy.
Yeah, that does not work.
It will probably get you smacked.
Smack, or it can anger them or make the whole thing worse. Just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, just don't.
Just don't say that. Don't try to brush it off as, oh, everybody goes through this.
Yeah.
Real depression is a disease. Not everybody has this disease. Not everybody goes through it. Don't assume you already know what they're doing, how they're feeling. Don't make assumptions. And definitely don't tell them that because that just lowers down the severity and the seriousness of the problem. Because depression is a serious problem.
Yep.
And saying, oh, everybody goes through it is like saying, oh, it doesn't matter, it's fine. You'll get over it. You'll be fine. Just, get over it. That's another thing. Get over it. Don't say that. Don't give up. Don't say, well, there's nothing I can do. I tried everything. Have I ever done that to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And how does it make you feel when I do that?
It makes me feel like crap.
Yeah, and you've done it to me. There's just
yeah.
we get to the point where we're just like, oh, there's just nothing more I can do. If it really does get to that point, find a nicer way to say it. Just be like, well, how about you talk to your therapist? Or how about you think about your coping mechanisms? How did you deal with this last time? And ask them, get them thinking about what they need to think about. Ask them the questions that will spark the answers that they need. Because if you don't have the answers, you probably can eventually dig it out of them. Even if they don't realize they have the answers, they might have the answers. Lastly, but most importantly, know the symptoms of suicidal moods. If they show any sign that they are suicidal, talk to their therapist. Or if they're actually at the point where they have the gun or the blade or the pills, whatever they're going to do, or if they've written their note, or if they've told you a plan, or if they start, like, another weird symptom of it is that they'll start giving away their possessions.
Oh, yeah.
If they suddenly start giving you, or your friends, or their friends, or whatever, they start getting rid of all their stuff, you might want to sit them down and be like, hey, how you doing? You need to talk about anything? I mean, you want to wrap? Well, we can chit-chat for a while.
Yeah.
Don't jump right out and be like, are you suicidal? Because that won't go over well.
Yeah.
That will not go over well. And if you're really, really scared about it, there's always 911. They will send somebody out to do what's called a wellness check. And if the officer or EMT, whoever they send out to do this wellness check, if they evaluate the person and find out the person is suicidal, they can do what's called a 5150, which is where they take them to a hospital, and the hospital is required to monitor them for at least 72 hours and evaluate their psychiatric condition.
Yep.
5150s, if you do that, do not be surprised if they're angry at first. Because it's forcing them to do something against their will. So they will probably fight back a little bit. I know one time, the last time I went on a 5150 was my mom, right after my divorce. Well, after the separation started, and I went to my parents that night from my ex-husband. My mom knew, I'd already had suicide issues in the past, and I've already, was diagnosed with mental illness, so she already knew that this was going to make me sick. It would be circumstantial, but it would still trigger all the chemicals, the misfiring neurons, and so she's like, okay, you're gonna go to the hospital tomorrow. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm gonna be fine. I'm not going to the hospital. And I got kind of mad at her at first. But then while I was at the hospital, I realized, you know what? She did that because she cares about me. She didn't do that to get me off her plate and out of the way and whatever. That's not why she did it. But that's what I was thinking at the time. She just wanted to pawn me off on somebody else. Because that's basically what my ex-husband did.
Yep.
So, yeah. So there's that. And then there's also, let me read the paper. Where is it? There it is. There is a hotline, the National Suicide Hotline, which we'll put the number below, and I'll say it right now. 1-800-273-8255. They can call it. Give your friend, your loved one, that number if they are suicidal, if you think they're suicidal, or if they talked about being suicidal, or showed suicidal symptoms. Give them the number. Or, if you really want to, you can call it yourself, too, and be like, hey, my friend is doing this and this and this, what can I do? They have trained people on that phone number that will help you. Usually, most people actually go straight to 911, but if you don't want to do a 5150, or you don't want to seem as confrontational, just call that number, or have them call the number. Well, we have racked up quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
I babbled my head off. Do you have anything you want to say?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. How do we interact when I get depressed? How does it make you feel? What's it make you ask me?
I tend to just ask you what's going on. Sometimes you give me an answer, sometimes you don't. A lot of the time, if you're just laying in bed, being very bedbound, there's times I'll just let you be because I know that's what you need.
Well, what goes through your mind when you think that I might be starting to get depressed again?
Makes me try to figure out what I have to do to help you get by.
Yeah. But have you ever gone, oh my God, what did I do? What did I say?
I did.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time I had a depressive episode since we got together?
I don't, because that was a while ago.
Well, yeah, we've been together for over 6 years, so 6.5 years next month. Yeah, because, oh, you know what? I remember, because you were already in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I had my depressive episode, and that put me in the hospital, so when you got home, I was still in the hospital, so you didn't know.
Yeah.
That was a big, huge, confusing situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of things do I do that do and don't help you?
The thing that you do that doesn't help me is you tend to shut me out.
I do?
Yes.
How so? What do you mean?
Like, I'll ask you what you need, what's going on, how are you. You tend not to answer.
No. What I'm asking is, when you're depressed.
Oh, whoops.
No, I understand that. They might shut you out. They might do that. Some people just don't feel good talking about it, but don't give up on them. Don't give up on them. That'd be a good time to call their therapist or another loved one to intervene. Like, he knows that if I get really, really sick with a psychosis or anything like that, who do you call?
Your mom.
Exactly. My mom.
Yep.
She is like a second emergency contact over to intervene when I get sick. But what I was asking you was, when you're depressed and I come to you, what things do I do that do and don't help? Give me some good examples.
Things that help are you actually come to me. Things that don't help is you tend to get a little overprotective sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like with the other doctors, or just with you, or
just with me?
How would I protect you from
They're
myself?
not overprotective, but over. I don't know what the word I'm looking
I know I have a tendency, it's not intentional, but I do have a tendency to become almost condescending.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
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 I don't mean to do
Oh,
that.
I know you don't.
Yeah, but I do realize I do that, and I try not to. But a lot of times I do that with the tone that I ask you the questions.
Yeah.
Now, like with me, when I'm depressed, you handle it fairly well.
Yeah, I try to.
You come to me, you ask me how I'm feeling and stuff like that, but you can gauge my symptoms and my reactions to your questions as to whether you should intervene more or let me be.
Yep.
Because sometimes that might be the answer. Just let them be for a while. Let
Yep.
them work it out and calm down, and as long as they're not in any danger of hurting themselves or someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Once that danger presents itself, then you've got a whole new can of worms to deal with.
Yep.
So if you guys have any more questions, or if you have any tips, please put them below in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. Give us enthusiastic thumbs up, because, we're pretty awesome. Right? At least
Right.
I'd like to think we're pretty awesome.
I think so.
Alright. We will see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Have a good night.